So we're moving on now to number 6, PHY128 practice questions for test B. It says solve the following trigonometric equation, state how many solutions as well as the values. Give answers to 3 significant figures or as fractions of pi for radians. So we have to get all the solutions between 0 and 180 degrees of this trigonometric equation, and we can get assistance in unit 5F. So let's go there for assistance. So we are now in unit 5F, and the trig identity we are going to use is this one right here, this very famous one. Sine squared of a plus cos squared of a is equal to 1. Let's import it into our solution. So we are going to begin with 3 cos squared x plus 5 sine x is equal to 4. Now we know that sine squared of x plus cos squared of x is equal to 1. So therefore, cos squared of x must be 1 minus sine squared of x. So we're going to delete that cos squared of x here, and in its place, we are going to put 1 minus cos squared of x. Cos squared of x, right? No, sine squared of x, sorry. Cos squared of x is equal to 1 minus sine squared of x. Sine squared, so it's sine squared that's supposed to come here, right? So now what we are going to do, we're going to clear this bracket, multiply by 3. So we have 3 ones of 3, and 3 times minus sine squared x is equal to minus 3 sine squared of x. Now we're going to simplify. We can bring sine squared x, minus 3 sine squared x on the, and both the sine x, everything on the right side. So now what we're going to have on the right side, on the left side will be 0. We have 0 on the left side, and on the right side we have 4 subtract 3. Yes, 4 subtract 3 plus 3 sine squared x subtract 5 sine. Okay, because we have subtract 3, we added 3 sine squared x, and we subtract 5 sine x. So 4 subtract 3 will give us 1. So we have a trigonometrical quadratic equation. Let's make it look like is ax squared plus bx squared plus c is equal to 0. So that's a plus 1. 4 minus 3 simplifies to plus 1. So now this resembles ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. So now what we can do now, we can identify the values of a and b and c, as a would be equal to 3, b is equal to -5, and c is equal to 1. So now we can substitute these values into the trig equation. the quadratic equation, sorry. I think we've got it here. It's in common fraction, is it? Or we can look it up, simply look it up. I found it under the radical. Here it is. Very famous radical, and that will give us the value of x. But x here now will play the role as sine of x. Okay. So it's like we are finding sine of x. So B now, all right, so this will be sine of x is equal to minus B minus 5. That will be plus 5. I'll just write 5 minus 5 squared. A is 3, so that'll be 4 times 3 times C. C is 1. That's minus 5, sorry. And 2 times A would be actually 3. So therefore now we will end up having as our numerator 5 plus or minus. So we'll have 25, that's 5 squared is 25, minus 4 3 is 12, 25 minus 12. That will give us 13. And below here we'll have 6. So in the numerator we'll have 5 plus the square root of 13 divided by 6. 5 plus the square root of 13 is actually 8.61. So we have 8.61 divided by 6. Now we have to inverse sine, and we cannot inverse sine of any value that is greater than 1, because remember, sine is opposite of a hypotenuse, and the opposite is always smaller than the hypotenuse. So sine of any value will always be a 0 point. So there must be an error in the structure of the question. So let's make some changes to make this work. So a simple modification of changing positive 5 to negative 5 will do the trick. So we have a minus 5 here, we have a minus 5 here, minus 5 here, a minus 5 here. When we bring across to the right side, canceling out from the left, we have a plus 5, plus 5. So B will be a plus 5. Okay. B will be a plus 5. And then when we substitute a plus 5 into this quadratic equation formula, we have a negative 5. And then we go negative 5 plus root 13. Negative 5 plus root 13. That will give us negative 1.39. Negative 1.394. And we have to divide this by 6. This will certainly give us, even though it's a negative, but it's a 0 point. That's what we're looking for there to be solution. So we're going to divide negative 1.394 by 6. So we got negative 0.232. So now we have to arc sine or inverse sine negative 0.232 for us to find what is x. So x is equal to inverse sine or arc sine of 0.232 And that will give us minus 13.41. However, as you can see, according to this little formula, the second value would be 180 degrees minus theta, and 180 degrees minus a minus 15. That will bring us out of the range that they give us. So changing to minus 5 still does not make the cut, but we can see the algebra of how to solve such an equation. Now in the test, now one will be provided that such that the solution will be there. So all you do is just inverse sign and you get your solution. Okay, so the whole idea is to change this now to one trig function, one trig ratio. Here we use 1 minus sine squared. So you have the only trig ratio there is sine squared, sine, and use the quadratic formula to solve for sine of x, because this will be a quadratic, and then inverse sine to find the value of x.